I've been dealing with an incredibly difficult client who it felt like he sent missiles back. So in that moment, I found it very difficult to find my moment by moment presence and stay centered.
You know what I found is that I've been teaching focusing for, oh my gosh, I would say at least 15 years. And I get a lot of questions about, they're like this one, about the problems that come up or the difficulties in the dynamic, and even just sort of like a person who just can't seem to get a felt sense, or yeah, seems hostile, or is, really throwing you off your center. And that is what's happening in the moment. So what I find is that rather than looking for a solution to that, whatever that is, in this case, it can be difficult to stay centered. But the thing that I always go back to is, well, what is happening in this moment? And in this moment, it's a sense of being attacked, or a sense of, or if, like a very common example in focusing is someone who just can't seem to get a felt sense or go in. And so rather than trying to find all these ways around it, is to find a way to really just name that. This might be, what you would actually say in response is really depends on the framework that you work from. But to simply, acknowledge, okay, there's this conflict here, and I might wonder, is this dynamic how this person, encounters life in general? Jenlin did this very lovely video, which describes working with a really difficult client who had trouble relating to people. And he had a way of framing it that was sort of like, I'm experiencing this as difficult, and I don't really think that's the way, I want to be with you, or something like that. So naming the experience, and also saying, this is something like, if we can't work it out here in the therapy, this person's probably got this kind of conflict in various aspects of their life. So this is the place to kind of name it in a way that also says, there's a way forward here from this. This doesn't feel right. And I'm sensing, like, right here and now, this is, this has got an edge to it, or however you would word that, and say, but this isn't how, I'd like us to be, or we, this isn't how this relationship is, ideally going to go. So what's, and how you, like I said, how you frame that question or comment depends a lot on your orientation. Some people wouldn't necessarily say that so directly, but I would find a way to say, this is what's happening here, without judgment, without necessarily trying to challenge or solve, but just to say, you don't necessarily want to say, I'm feeling attacked by you, but to say, I think this dynamic is a little bit difficult, and I'm wondering, about that, or just like naming it and letting that sit there, and see if that will cause the person to reflect, because what it does is throw them into this moment, off the track of attack, and into ideally your comments will point to something inside them that they will stop and have to pause and actually reflect on a little bit. And whether that will have that immediate desired impact, I can't say. But usually over time, when you start just naming the current right now situation and how it might be unfolding inside them, they start to get into the habit of doing that. And it really changes the dynamic over time, and hopefully will also change it in their life outside of the therapy.
Having listened to what Leslie said, I want to just add a little something that's another perspective on it. In some ways, to take the phrase of John Kabat-Zinn of wherever you go, there you are. So the mindfulness part that we bring there is the paying attention to moment by moment is not something we do when everything is right, or when it's flowing, or when we feel comfortable, or when the client is good, but actually, especially when things are difficult. And so it might be easier said than done, but one of the things that we focus on is the notion that you need to take a pause. Okay. And so if you describe a situation that's difficult, you feel like there's daggers coming at you, or the client is very tense, or there's an expectation, or there's negativity, the tendency naturally that the therapist has is tend to actually kind of go into a bunker mode, feel tense, feel pressure. Part of the training is actually to notice that you have more time than you think. You have more space than you think, okay? And somebody in the chat asked, you describe what, the desired outcome, you talk about safety. How do we do that? What's the way to do that? And so a large part of it is that we as therapists are trained to realize that we have more time, to push that sense of, instead of crumbling under pressure, to kind of make some space, okay? And unless we are able to make that space, it's not going to be possible for the client to find the space. So generally, when there is a sense of pressure, it is very likely that there is a sense of intense pressure in the client, okay? And if we fold under that pressure, then there's no way the client is going to be able to find that. So these are not techniques. That's why our teaching is very experiential, because the way we do it is by practicing it. And when you've done it many, many times and you've seen other people do it, then it becomes second nature, under pressure, to realize, it's possible for me to take a little moment and to say, what's happening here? Okay. And that creates the breathing space where it's possible for something new to come in.